Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the latest in a series of format webinars designed to offer tips and insights on ways in-house resourcing teams can improve your talent attraction and engagement. So in this session, we will be looking at a seemingly small but absolutely vital important area, especially in the digital age, and that is writing a good job advert, how important it is to get it right. Now, writing a job advert is something I'm sure all of you do on a very daily basis, and it can be a bit of a laborious, painful task, but judging by the sheer number of you attending today, a lot of you do appreciate how important it really is to get it right. Let's face it is your first and possibly your last chance to grab the attention of that desperately needed talent that you guys are employed to bring into your companies. So writing a good advert makes all the difference to your application and statistics. So here to give you some key tips and actions that you can action straight away is our account director, David Johnson, or DJ to his friends, who'll be taking us through some top tips for your job ad writing. Now the webinar will last around 25 minutes or so, and there will be time for questions at the end. So please do feel free to type up some questions, and DJ will be more than happy to answer them for you. DJ, over to you.
Thank you, Jamie. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be doing a new webinar, and looking at the fact that we've got over 70 people on the call already. It's actually a good insight into how important people feel this topic is. Just to give some background, I've been giving talks and training courses in the last 15 years on writing the good advert, and what we are going to do today, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to physically write an advert, but more importantly give you some tips on what to include in the content to attract the best candidates. So in terms of what is an advert actually designed to do? Well, an advert is designed really to persuade and convince somebody to apply for a job. But it's also got a part to play in terms of convincing somebody that your company, this opportunity, may not be right for them. So there are two things that an advert is designed to do. So to start with, I put up what I call a mythical advert that was supposedly printed in the Sunday Times. Men wanted, and you might think, why am I showing you a small ads, Lonely Hearts column? Well, actually read on. Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honour and recognition in case of success. And the tagline there, Ernest Shackleton for Burlington Street. Now, of those of you who have know their English or British history, you'll remember Ernest Shackleton was one of our foremost polar explorers at the turn of the last century. And Edwardian men at that time wanted to conquer the world. It wasn't necessarily about money. It actually was about honour and recognition and being seen amongst your peers to be somebody to hold on put up on a pedestal as somebody who's been extremely successful. So whether it was mountains, whether it was new countries, jungles, or whether it was conquering the poles, this was extremely important to a lot of people. And this talked directly to that type of person, because this was where they were going. Freezing cold, desolate landscape of the Antarctic, very poorly dressed for the cold. So it really was being very straight to the point and telling people what to expect. So what we're going to talk about today, and hope to give you some insight and some tips, is really about talking directly to the people you're trying to attract. So the first thing I want to do is just play you a piece of video. Now, I won't take the credit for this. It was first shared with me by Adam Templeman, who was at Empower, is now at Quintiles, as head of staffing resourcing. But I think it's something that's quite interesting, and we'll start to get some questions going. Apologies.
This is the end of publishing, and books are dead and boring. No longer can it be said that we like to read. My friends and I, we don't like the way books feel in our hands. It's not true that I don't follow trends. I know what I want when I see it, and packaging is more important than content. I have to tell you, my attention span is too small for big ideas. And it's just not true that I read a lot and I like learning. I don't care. And you should never think I've got to be concerned with environment and sustainability. What I really hope you get is you've got to open your eyes to my values. What's important to me is what Lady Gaga is wearing. And I don't really care all that much what Gandhi did last century. I think it's unbelievable that you're actually listening to us. What's important for you is you'll find customers for your products. You think your job's done if we like your brand. We'll do it for you on Facebook, on our mobiles, me and my friends. Your market is dying. Don't think it's all going to survive. It is the end of the publishing industry as we know it. Unless you reverse how you see me. It is going to survive. Don't think that it's all dying. Your market is me and my friends. On our mobiles, on Facebook, we'll do it for you. If we like your brand, your job's done. You'll think of products for your customers. You'll find what's important for you is that you're actually listening to us. I think it's unbelievable what Gandhi did last century. And I don't really care all that much what Lady Gaga is wearing. What's important to me is you've got to open your eyes to my values. What I really hope you get is I've got to be concerned with environment and sustainability. And you should never think I don't care. I read a lot and I like learning. And it's just not true that my attention span is too small for big ideas. I have to tell you, content is more important than packaging. I know what I want when I see it, and I don't follow trends. It's not true that we don't like the way books feel in our hands. My friends and I, we like to read. No longer can it be said that books are dead and boring, and this is the end of publishing.
So I hope that sort of like gave a different perspective on things and really sets the scene for what we're going to talk about today. That actually, yeah, there's an awful lot of assumptions made when it comes to advertising, and DK put that together. When the Kindle was first coming out, and everybody was saying that books have got, it's the end of publishing, and everybody's going to have it online. But actually, it's understanding your target audience, and that's something that we'll expand on going forward. So, what makes a good advert? Good question. But actually, it's a case of think about people. Don't think about them necessarily as a job seeker or a candidate, but think about them as an individual. And actually, job search is very similar to shopping in terms of the process we go through, not just in the actual, the process maybe online or actually how we look for a new job, but actually in terms of how we decide on a company, an employer, a potential job opportunity, what that job will actually include. So it's actually about how we actually make those decisions, the emotions we go through, and what will actually appeal to us. What it isn't is a job spec. It's one of the two things that you should take away from today is the fact to think about your audience as shopping, job seekers, as shoppers, but also in terms of what it's not. The advent of the digital age, in terms of career websites, job boards, LinkedIn, etc. What it's actually done is made the actual process of advertising a job fast and cheap. Going back 15 plus years, when we were primarily advertising in print, it was expensive. Whether it was a local advert, even a small local advert would cost several £100, £300 to £400 with some of the, when I was in recruiting. But if you're Yorkshire, if you're Yorkshire Evening Post or the Manchester Evening News, it could be even £3,000 just for a small advert. And then if you went to the national press or the actual targeted press, the accountancy press, the marketing press, IT press, you could be looking at anything from a few £1,000s to £7,000 or £10,000. So writing an advert, you had to make sure that you spent that money wisely. The internet makes it very simple. Keith Robinson, somebody that many of you will have heard of and know, who's recovering well after a stroke, called it the promiscuous digit. He meant it more in terms of applications, but actually it's the same true with the job spec. Copy-paste is such an easy way of completing an advert. So when it comes to actually writing adverts, think like a shopper. So, to expand on that, let's think about how you'd buy a car. So, most of us have bought a car at one time in our life. Even my colleagues in London who swear they don't need a car, have actually considered it. So, when you look at a car has an engine, It has brakes, it has a steering wheel, it has 5 seats, 7 seats, 2 seats, it has 4 wheels and a drivetrain to get from one place to another. And it has a very long spec of items that are included in that product. But you don't buy a car on that. You know, how many adverts on the TV will literally be a list of what that car actually involves? No, you'll see adverts on TV which are about the experience that it gives you, the feeling of driving along beautiful lanes in somewhere in Italy, or driving on snow, or driving up mountains against skiers. We've seen them all. It's about how it makes you feel. And that's what it comes down to in terms of how people advertise cars. So some of you who have got a few grey hairs like me may remember a film back in about 1980 called Crazy People, which was basically a film with Chevy Chase and Dudley Moore, where Dudley Moore was the advertising executive who had a breakdown. And he went into an unpolitically correct term for a hospital for people with issues, and basically started writing adverts with the inmates. And he believed in this honest advertising, the truth. So buy Volvos. They're boxy, but they're good. We know they're not sexy. This is not a smart time to be sexy anyway, with so many new diseases around. Be safe instead of sexy. Volvo. Boxy, but good. Now, if people remember Volvos of the sort of like 1970s and 80s, they were exactly this on the left-hand side. You know, they were cars that were built in Sweden that appealed to what I would call Middle England, Middle Britain, a lot of people who were civil servants. My girlfriend at the time, her grandfather had one who was a classic civil servant in London. Nice conservative suits, white shirts, ties. And Volvo realised that this was, they wanted to break out of this mould. There was a new generation in the sort of like 90s who had come out of the yuppie era, people that had money. They had sports cars as people in their early to mid 20s, but they were now having a family. But they didn't want to lose that, dare I say it, petrol head, sports, speed freak, whatever you want to call it. But they also wanted something that was going to be very safe. It could carry their children and family in safety, whether that was to football, to cricket, on holiday, or activities such as sailing or horse riding. You need to be able to put a lot of kit into a car, but they still wanted that performance. So essentially what they created, which is the advert on the right, is a sports car, Lamborghini Countach here, towing a trailer. And that was essentially what they wanted to do. But it wasn't enough just to do that, to break into this new audience. They knew these people out there, but what did they do? Well, they knew at the time they watched car racing in the form of the British Touring Car Championship, which went on to the European Touring Car Championship. So they entered it with an estate. And I can imagine the first time it turned up at the grid, everybody looked at it and went, that's an estate car. What is it doing here with all the high-performance BMWs, Vauxhalls, Fords, etc. It was the time of the high-performance saloon car. But very quickly they realised this was the car to beat, and actually it won the Touring Car Championship 2 years in a running. Suddenly Volvo were in a different class. They were appealing to a different market and started selling cars. And that is where Volvo took off in the early 90s. And the car became very widespread. The 850 there was then taken up by the police as their high-performance saloon. So this is an example of really how you can appeal directly to your audience if you know what actually makes them tick. So we're looking at how we can actually appeal to those markets. So if we now look at your credibility, at the end of the advert day, your advert is an advert for your business. So it's about your credibility. And so I've got some examples here. So here we have an example here for a management accountant, and on first look, it doesn't look too bad. Okay, if we ignore the fact that it takes you, a third of the actual advert is listing, the job number, the career area, the country, region, state, and all that information. But then we start reading down. We've got about the role, and if we read through it, I'll read it out just so you don't have to strain. Management accountant, you will be responsible for producing monthly management accounts, including profit and loss account, balance sheet, cash flows, variance analysis, key performance indicators, and supporting commentaries in line with agreed SLA and reporting deadlines. Okay, call me stupid, but as an ex-accountancy recruiter, that's what a management accountant does on a monthly basis. And it goes on basically to list what an accountant will do. So if you're I don't know whether this is looking for a part qualified or a qualified accountant, but if you're actually a management accountant, you know what you do on a day-to-day basis. There's nothing in there in terms of actually what is different, what makes this management accounting role different from somebody else. This is probably the worst I have seen. Again, accountancy, it was just by one of my colleagues sent me this. So this is looking for a head of communities for the ICAEW. And this is effectively, I read through this, this is the first page of 4. So this is 4 pages, it's basically just the job spec. But this is a marketing focused role in terms of building engagement around communities. So a lot of social media, a lot of community work, and yet the actual advert is basically, it's like sending the ingredient list for a meal at a restaurant, and putting it on the menu. I mean, that's not going to make you want to eat it. So, through 2 examples of really, what are the extremes in terms of both, a not so bad and an extreme bad example. But then if we look at an advert here, now this is, I've been working with Empower, I've almost been working with Empower for about 6 years now. And we do regular little webinars and sessions with their new resourcing members of the resourcing team to just give them some pointers. Now, they're not perfect. I will defy anybody to say they're perfect in writing adverts. But this is about talking to the people they're looking to recruit. Now, Empower customer service is the one thing that they are absolutely focused on. Some people may laugh, especially if they've had a bad experience, but they are working extremely hard to improve this. So everything is about recruiting people who will give brilliant customer service. So the first line is basically telling people what they're looking to do. It then goes on to actually talk about the fact that it's an active role. It's developing and monitoring offline and online communications. It's about making sure the business can deliver an excellent all-round customer experience. It then says what does success look like. It gives an indication of how you're going to be measured. But then what we really like is it's very conversational. Role summary, what you'll be doing. And this again, in terms of tone of voice for the organisation, it's about being personal. It's talking to people as individuals rather than talk. A lot of adverts will talk in a third person, in terms of rather than talking directly to that person, the individual. So it's just about shifting. It's not changing what's in the job spec. It's picking out the important bits. And actually it comes down to 80-20. 80% of it, what's in it for me, and 20% of what's in it for you. So it's about tapping into that person and what their aspirations are. It's also about mobile. We know that mobile is a huge growth area. In fact, Empower get around 30%, 33% of their website traffic now on mobile devices. We have clients like View Cinemas who are in excess of 35, 40% now. So it's about making sure the advert can be read comfortably on a mobile. If we'd seen the ICAEW advert on a mobile, I don't think anybody will have got beyond probably the first third of that actual page. So all that information is wasted. So coming back to the fact that job search is shopping and we're trying to appeal to people, let's take a consumer approach and actually look at who we're actually trying to target. So like we talked about with Volvo, who would this job appeal to? Because as an organisation, whether it's a new car, a new clothing style, a new TV, or a new house, again, at the end of the day, you need to know who you're actually trying to appeal to before you actually start advertising. So, the good news is you've got access to understand your target audience in the form of your employees. You've got access to all those great employees of all shapes and sizes, all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of job roles, and you can ask them why they joined the organisation. What was it in the role that interested them? what would they say to somebody who was thinking about joining the business? What would they say to somebody who was thinking about joining, I don't know, the customer service teams? What are the good bits? But what also are the bad bits? So from this, you can start to build up effectively very simple profiles, and it's something we do with clients all the time. Is literally a case of, it's a simple questionnaire, you send it out to people, and they complete it. 4 or 5 questions, maybe a few more in terms of the what's, whys, and of why they join the business. It will help you understand what makes people tick. So when it comes to actually looking at what questions to ask, let's look at your target audience. Who are they? Are they graduates, apprenticeships, people that are doing a job because it helps them go on holiday? Is it they work for your company because it's convenient? You have good parking on site, you have bus stops nearby, you're near to a motorway station. Who are they actually in terms of individuals, and what is important to them? Is it a case of actually they want to be able to get to work really easily, and you're in a business park or a retail park, or you're in the town centre close to a station? Or actually, is it a case of how the company is perceived in the market? Is it the brand? Is it the product? Is it the project that you work with? And what do they want from that job? So what is of interest? So if we go back to the management accountant advert, for example, when you interview a management accountant, or you're doing a telephone interview for a role, and you ask the question, what do you want? What are you looking for from your next role? Do they list out a job spec in terms of that advert? I want to do monthly management accounts, I want to do profit and loss, I want to do that. Or do they want to tell you things like, I want to be closer to the business, I want to be working with a commercial team, I like routine, I really enjoy the actual reporting side of things, but I want higher access in terms of the business. And from there you start to get an idea of what is making them tick for that job. But also, what are they looking for their next employer? So is it a case of they want to work for a larger organisation with more opportunities, they want to work for a smaller organisation where they're closer to the business? Lots of different reasons that people have for changing jobs, and what makes your company and your job different to your competitors. And I don't mean that in terms of, for example, Vodafone with O2, 3, etc. It's actually, who are you competing against in your immediate location? On your business park, in your town, depending where you are. And then you start looking at the benefits. So what benefits are important? And everybody better tell me pensions, life assurance, bonuses, etc. But dig a little bit deeper. So for example, customer service. I've got, I had an example many years ago of where they wanted to recruit customer service people for shifts between 10 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And actually they profiled the people that they wanted to target, and it profiled perfectly with mums and dads who were basically looking after the children and needed to be able to take the kids to school in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. And actually what was really interesting was some of the things that were important was a case of, actually there's a supermarket just around the corner, really big Tesco, Sainsbury's, etc., which they could stop off and pick up foods. There's little things like that that make life easy. They take away the tension of our working day, and they allow us to have more quality time. So it's looking beyond the actual benefits, the tangible benefits, at some of the softer benefits, the less tangible ones. And all of these types of things are what people tell you at interview and what employees will tell you. So it's something, the more you ask, the more you find out, the better your adverts are and the more targeted they are. So we've understood now who I'm looking to target. So let's look at what things we can tap into and why people change jobs. So new challenge. This is a classic one. People have been doing the same job for the last, 3 years, say, for example. They want to move on. Salary may not necessarily be the primary reason that people leave. I want to earn more. It is with certain people. For example, I remember running one of these courses and understanding that actually SaaS programmers, the most important thing to them was a case of, there were 3 things. I want the latest technology to work on, I want to be left alone to get on with my job, and I want to be paid lots. Quite simple, those 3 things, and that's what it came down to advertising for them. But it also can be a demotivator in terms of people don't feel like they're valued. It's often a good time at, when people get annual salary reviews, before Christmas, in tax year, so in sort of like March time. And this time of year is absolutely one of the best times in terms of attracting candidates, because Christmas seems a long time away, the nights are still long, the days are short, the weather's, well, at the moment it's thick and foggy in London, and it was dense fog where I live down on the south coast. So it's a case of they're feeling down, they have a bad day, have an argument with the manager, they go online and start looking for a job. Commute. Anybody that's been travelling with Southern recently will probably be in a prime position here. Changes in commute, roadworks. People commute from a certain area and suddenly they start digging up the road for the next 2 years. The M3 they've been digging up for the last probably 2.5 years now, making it a smart motorway, which means for me it's a real pain driving up the M3, but fortunately I can easily get onto the train. And again, benefits, better benefits, changes in company, changes in benefits, and career progression. Whether that's moving into different roles or whether that's moving into areas where you get more experience. People will want different types of career progression. And the tough one, I think everyone probably on this call will say, will have a story to tell about hiring managers. In my experience, hiring managers tend to want an awful lot. They want the perfect candidate, and aren't prepared to compromise, which makes your life really difficult. Some won't actually get involved with the conversation, so we'll say, I want the advert to actually be the job spec. Your recruiters, your experts in writing adverts, find out what they really need and want. Get them to describe the ideal candidate, in terms of the person, rather than saying it's on the job spec. Actually get them to talk it through. The key attributes, what is essential, where can you compromise, and then the last two, what's the future for the role, in terms of opportunities, where's it going, and ask them why they would do this job. I remember asking it of a hiring manager myself, and the immediate answer, I said, oh my God, I wouldn't do it. I'm like, okay, but there must be something that would make this job interesting. Oh no, it's really boring, it's a lot of reporting. Okay, we need to explore this, because it comes to interview, how are you going to sell the job? So it's getting them to sell the job to you. And the best way of getting them to put themselves in the shoes of the applicant. So you've now got information. You understand who your target audience is. You understand what's going to appeal to them. The two big questions now to ask that especially if you're recruiting the same type of role that your competitors have. So whether this is a high-level role, I work with people like ICON, where a clinical research associate, but in that industry, clinical research, they're the same job with all the main companies. So what makes them different? Customer service, what makes your company different to, what your contact center, why work for you? In terms of retail, another one, what makes you different? Why should I work for, Dorothy Perkins, Topshop? Okay, they work for the same business. Next, Monsoon, Harrods, Debenhams, Selfridges. What is it that makes you actually different? And really ask yourself hard. And what people will work well in your organisation? Is it people who are flexible? Is it people who are outward thinking? Is it people who don't want to massively make change, because actually we work on a very good model and it works? But on the flip side, why not work? Why would somebody not be right for the company? So in terms of, again, looking at the types of people in the organisation that are successful in different types of roles. What is it that made them choose your organisation? And also, what could you say to make sure that you only attract those people and you get people that aren't necessarily the right fit to self-select and look elsewhere? So we've now written an advert. We understand our audience, we've put all this down, we've created a great advert. Now, we know that 65, 70% plus of active job seekers, the first place they'll go to is Google. A lot of people say to me, oh no, they'll go to Reed, they'll go to Monster. Well, actually, most people, as recruiters, we know all the job boards, we know LinkedIn, etc. So, actually, if you haven't moved jobs that often, you probably will know Reed from point of view that they advertise on TV, and the same with Monster. But actually, when we think about it, where do we go when we're getting anything new? We go to Google. We search for B&Bs in Bath. We search for houses in Warrington. We search for Sony LCD TVs or LED TVs. We search for cameras, etc. We go to Google, and invariably, that's where we'll start. So what we need to do is make sure that our adverts are written in the best form for Google. So search engines and Google basically, they're big filing cabinets, nothing more, but very, very intelligent filing cabinets. So in the same way as you put information, pages, documents into a filing cabinet so that you can easily find it. So you'll file it in a drawer which is, I don't know, management accountant applications. You will put a folder in part qualified, etc. And then you'll basically put pages in with a title. When you write a document in Word, you use title and you use subtitles, and there's content. You structure it. And Google, basically, the same principles work on the web, that Google will look at things like the job title as one of the most important criteria, the web address, the subtitles, so that it helps Google understand what that page of content is about and who it will appeal to, because that's all it's looking to do, is surface the most relevant content to the most relevant individual. It doesn't want you to read loads of rubbish. It wants you to find the best possible page. So invariably, your candidate, your applicant turns to Google and then starts typing in, typically, job title. It's the first thing that people will search on. Who am I and where do I want to work? So job title and location are two of the most searched on phrases. Classically, you'll find Indeed vacancies at the top, but here we've got a job with Atkins, senior civil engineer. They click on the link and they come through to that job. Now, what is it that makes people click on adverts? It's one of the things that Google, there's a lot of analysis that Google do on terms of what makes people click. And it's the same way that we click on anything. It's a case of, if it looks relevant, I will click. So it's basically making sure that the advert content is easily found by Google and can be easily read. So if we look now at in detail, so this is an advert back from Empower. Basically, if we look at the Google listing on the left here, we've got job title and location pulled in. It's also got the company name. It's got the web address. Most people won't really look at that, but actually all they'll look at is actually the company, so it determines whether it's a job board or LinkedIn, for example, and that influences whether the people will click on it. We know that candidates from research are more likely to click on employers than they are job boards, Indeed, and agencies, if it's the right sort of organisation. So the opening text here, Empower Jobs are keen to recruit, Empower are keen to recruit a web design into their expanding digital team based in Solihull. This is basically the first lines of the actual advert. And what Google does is basically, it's reading through the text in your advert on that web page and trying to find the most important piece that it thinks somebody would be interested in, and therefore help them click on that link in the search engine results. So we look like a lot of certainly the job boards, so all our career sites, recruitment agency sites, we make it easy for Google, and we call this is called the meta description. So we will literally tag this automatically, so Google won't have to actually search. Google knows this is the most important part of the actual advert. Now, we know there are issues with a lot of applicant tracking systems hiding your vacancies from Google, but I suspect most of you will advertise it on job boards, LinkedIn, and Indeed. So the same principles will apply to these platforms. So by taking this best practice, you can see the advert from LinkedIn here, it does exactly the same. So it's really important to use this structure and get that hook line in. So what we've done now, we've actually understood our audience, we've understood what makes them tick, and we've written an advert not just that will appeal to them, but also can be found easily in Google. If it's found in Google, it's going to be found in Indeed, and it's going to you can effectively forget having to worry about finding active candidates because they'll find you, or they've got a good chance of finding you. So let's just summarize in terms of an advert checklist. So an advert must have a good job title, no in-house jargon. Think about what somebody would do to search on to actually find this job. We see a lot, public sector are probably the worst, but we see it in other large organisations. They'll put the actual internal job title. And it does not make any sense to anybody outside your business. Salary and location. Okay, salary, hugely controversial with direct employers, but one thing that we can show, in terms of click-throughs, if a salary is on an advert, you're going to get something like 65% more people are more likely to actually click on it because they know it's a job which is going to be relevant for them. It's in the relevant salary range. Location, again, if it hasn't got a location or it's got a broad location, again, people don't know if it's relevant. Often we see job adverts written, southeast. Well, southeast is a huge area. Is it going to be close to home? Is it going to be commutable? So those two are very key. But salary, if you can't put it on display, then one of the things that a lot of companies are able to do, and one thing we do, is we make sure that it's searchable. So we have salary ranges. That way, if somebody searches on roles 25 to 35, etc., they'll know that it's in the right ballpark. Then it's your brief intro, your hook. This is a bit that will get people to actually click on it in Google or a job board. Think Twitter and 140 characters. For those of you who aren't on Twitter, effectively describe it to somebody in one line. Describe that role, the key attributes in one line. And then take them on. A short paragraph. They've now clicked on this job. It's starting to actually sell the opportunity. Bring that person into the role and what it's actually offering. And then expand. You've got them interested, or they may not be interested and clicked away, but now tell them a bit more. So give them the key things that this role is doing or must have. So again, it helps somebody know whether they're suitable. And people say to me, "Oh, that's why we put a whole job spec on the website." Well, actually, what happens if you've got 15 characteristics or 15 requirements? Somebody will read through it and say, "Well, I haven't got all those, but I'll apply anyway because they're bound to not want somebody with everything." If you put 5 and somebody has got only 2 out of those 5, they're unlikely to actually apply. Whereas, as I said, if it's 15, they're more likely to say, "Oh, I'll apply anyway," or they don't read it. Then take them on the case of, "I'm still interested, I'm the right type of person, the job interests me," and then you talk about the person. Who's going to fit? What is the fit? What is the environment? Where is my desk? What is my window? And then finish it in terms of, this is the bit now where you're really saying, okay, you're a right fit, click apply. Give them the benefits that are potentially different from the day-to-day. So in terms of things that will make your organisation and the location they're working in different. And finally, ask yourself the question, if I was that candidate, would I apply? Questions? I hope that's been interesting, but let's see what questions people have given us.
Excellent, thank you very much, DJ. Right, well, I hope you all found that useful. The questions have been coming in, so obviously it's struck a chord with some of you here. First one, and we were expecting this one to come in, and I'm glad it turned up. Someone is asking, "I've always been told when writing job ads that keywords are important. You don't mention keywords anywhere." Absolutely, yeah, a classic one. Actually, it's brilliant. We've got several questions I'm just scrolling through here. One of which is specifically, with regards to the Google search, I've been told for the relevancy search to have the job title repeated at least 5 times. How effective is this? I think that's a great question. There's 2 parts to this. One is in terms of the job boards will often tell you to make sure the advert has got keywords in. This is quite a simple one, and it's actually down to the fact that the job board keyword search is typically nowhere near as powerful as Google. So it basically works on repetition of keywords. So it will rank a vacancy that's got 10, for example, job title has repeated 10 times above one that's got it 5. The converse is the case with Google. Google hates to be spammed.
it hates to have keywords repeated left, right, and centre. 15 years ago, SEO was all about keyword repetition, and actually the same with with writing job adverts. To be honest, Google's really, really clever. They spend billions on their search algorithm. You don't need to repeat it probably more than a couple of times. Write an advert that's natural, and Google will rank that more highly over an advert that is just full of repeated keywords, because it knows that that advert has just been written to rank above a more natural advert. So ironically, the more natural an advert, the better it will rank from Google. But job title is the most important. Certainly, don't be afraid to re-mention it a couple of times, but make sure it's relevant and is the correct one in the actual is the job title, and not an internal one.
Excellent. I hope that was useful. So we've had a number of questions around the job title and then keyword area, as we were fully expecting. So hopefully that answers it. Another one which we have touched on is we're forbidden from putting salaries on job postings. Any suggestions around this?
I think hopefully I covered that, but salary is hugely contentious. I know some companies it's never going to be able to be displayed. However, one of the ways around it is really to try and get salary ranges into your job search, so that at least people can filter by salary ranges. If you can just work on the compliance, and typically HR and compliance. Empower used, when we started working for them, they couldn't. They then started to be able to advertise it, and we've put in a little bit of clever logic that basically if the salary field is not completed in their applicant tracking system, and when we pull the vacancy, we will put competitive or market rate or something like that, so it gives them the flexibility.
Excellent. Another one we've had, our ATS is very static. All of the job ads must be the same, as there are set categories within it.
I think this is alluding, this may be from somebody in maybe the retail environment, because I've had a number of companies over the years that I've met where, certainly if they're recruiting, say, customer service assistants or contact center staff or retail sales assistants, they have templates for these job adverts, so they're all effectively the same. What I would suggest is actually using this as an opportunity to create different versions, so you can then advertise a variety of different job adverts, and actually do a bit of testing in terms of different job style adverts for the same location, for example, and see what ones get the best results.
Another one come in. Is there an ideal word limit for a job ad? Interesting.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. I'm glad that this has been asked. Yeah, because if I look at job specs, most of them I think are around 400 words, far too long. To be honest, I think this is going back to attention span, and actually what we do is we track people how they scroll down pages in adverts. To be honest, I would maximum 200. I would always set a limit, and when I do training courses, I get people to set themselves a limit of 150, because that way they typically write between 150 and 170. That will allow you to actually write a quite succinct, positive advert, but without any fluff, so people don't get bored. It can be easily read on all devices, whether that's desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile. And I think that's something we need to really be addressing, is in terms of when you write an advert, see how it actually appears on mobile. Maybe not if it's your applicant tracking system, it's not mobile friendly, but see how it appears on, for example, one of the job boards. That's the best thing to do.
Absolutely, and we're not saying a candidate will never see a job spec here, are we? Of course we're not. What we're saying is this is the hook. This is what's going to grab their attention.
Actually,
get them to apply. And
that leads on to a question I just spotted there, in terms of our hiring managers, line managers want to have the job spec, and yeah, they won't approve. We have to get our adverts approved by them. I think it's a case of, when that is the situation, is recognizing that you're the experts in recruiting. They're not necessarily the best people to actually do the recruiting. A job spec is a document that is created by HR as part of the compliance and part of the process, so that somebody knows what they're doing. It's designed for performance reviews, learning and development, and in the extreme cases, actually, if there needs to be disciplinary action. So a job spec is much more than an actual advert, and the advert is should it shouldn't not do this. An advert should always reflect the job spec. So what you're doing is actually taking the important parts of a job spec and writing it in a way that will appeal to the right type of person. So I think it's a classic question that I always get asked, but I think it's about establishing yourself as you're the expert in recruitment. I will do the recruitment and get you the best possible candidate. You need to trust me.
Excellent stuff. Please do keep the questions coming in. They're flowing in nicely. So a question we spotted earlier. What metrics would you suggest to put in place to measure success?
Cool. That's a good question. It depends what you can measure. It depends on how you're set up with your career site. So, for example, if it's just your applicant tracking system, you're probably only going to measure the actual people that completed applications against that vacancy. But do some tests. Advertise it in one way one time and advertise it another the next time. Or, if you can, a great way to actually do live testing is to do what we call A/B testing. So you basically write two versions of the advert and actually see what people respond to. The other way is if you've got your website is more comprehensive. So, for example, with our clients, what we'll do is we can give people access to how many people actually read the advert and then go on to apply. So actually click apply. It's a great metric in terms of actually understanding how many people you've engaged and how many people are just not interested. So, for example, if you've got 1 in 10 for an advert and you rewrite it and you've got 1 in 3, then you can look at which advert is actually what is appealing to people. You can also ask questions of the people that you actually employed, but those are the two areas of actually just looking how well they perform. I think we've just seen one here come in.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for Facebook? Another good question. Really interesting, Facebook. We've been working closely with a number of our clients managing their social media, and probably 2 years ago, I'd have said Facebook was a super passive environment, and people weren't actively job seeking, and that's what they did on LinkedIn. To be honest, we've been managing all sorts of content, non-job related, so about building brand, about building and giving an insight into the business on Facebook to really engage with people. But what we're actually finding is if we look at the percentage of click-throughs from Facebook to the websites, 2/3 of click-throughs from Facebook are actually to job-related posts, so job adverts. But actually what happens is that a lot of people, when we do post, and we'll only post a job advert probably 1 a week, so it's about, I don't know, 20, 30 pieces of content that are not a job, and then 1 piece of job. But what we do is build up content around that. So I'll give an example. We ran an account management campaign, a couple of profiles, some videos about people in account management, and then we posted the actual job. But we didn't write the actual advert on Facebook. We basically put a relevant picture within some information saying, are you, literally a case of, are you interested in an account management role within this organisation? Find out more and click. And that is as simple as that. So the actual advert was on the website, so we're driving people back to the actual website where we could then convert them. And we get very high conversion rates in that situation. But in terms of if you're looking to write an advert, I think it's a case of people's attention span on Facebook is very limited. You're getting so much coming through. Keep it simple. Talk more about the opportunity in terms of the person. So the person and how it's going to make them feel. To give it a bit more of a sort of like friendly scenario, and then get them to actually click through. I hope that helps.
So like you said in the presentation, think like Twitter.
Yeah, it's short, sweet. It's just talking to people as people. Think about how you communicate with your friends on Facebook and social media. What you like, what people you get a lot of response from. Tone. I think just somebody's put the question. Tone is very, very important. The actual tone of voice. If you're and that's where it comes down to understanding your organisation. Empower, they tried to move away from when we first started working 6 years ago. It was very corporate, and now it's very conversational. Get a huge amount of engagement now. Whereas on LinkedIn, people are more browsing. So they're clicking through on content, they're clicking through to the website on more content about people, the profiles, days in the life, things like that. And actually, ironically, less on jobs, which is probably against what I thought 2 years ago. Any other questions, Jamie?
We've got one which kind of could help us wrap up. It's saying, could I get a copy of this presentation? So absolutely you can. Just to let you all know, we're recording this session, so I will be forwarding it on to you at the end, or probably tomorrow actually. So you've got it there to reference back as and when, and also share amongst your teams within your organisations. Hopefully this will help. Other than that, unless any more questions come in the next few seconds, I think that's probably
I think we've probably covered everything. Guys, thank you so much for your time. I really hope you appreciated that. And yeah, if you've got any questions, yeah, my contact details will be on the recording that goes around. Please drop myself or Jamie a line. We hope that we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.